Hey guys, it's Sarah with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we have a review and install of the Body Armor 4x4 Eco Series front bumper fitting your 13 through 18 Ram 1500s, excluding the Rebel. This option is perfect for the Ram owner who's looking for a full-width front bumper that has mounts for a winch as well as lighting and wants an option that doesn't break the bank. This Eco Series front bumper features aggressive styling and has beefy construction, but isn't as heavy weight-wise as some other options. This bumper features steel plate construction with a textured black powder coat finish that resists rust and corrosion. This bumper can accommodate a winch up to 12,000 pounds and has multiple options for mounting lighting. It's compatible with your OE sensors and includes all mounting hardware. So as far as price goes, this one comes in at around $650, making it one of the most budget-friendly options for your Ram. And for your money, you get a full-width front bumper that features mounts for lighting as well as a winch. I'm giving this install a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It features a direct bolt-up install and can be done within 2 hours, although it may take some additional time to get the adjustment just right. So with that said, let's jump into our install. For this install, you will need ratchets, 18, 16, 10, and 7mm sockets, 16 and 18mm wrenches, a pop clip removal tool, and it may also be helpful to use impact gun, an electric ratchet, a swivel, and a 16mm ratcheting wrench. Alright, so the first step in our install with the hood popped, we're going to remove this rad support cover. So grab a pop clip removal tool and let's remove the pop clips. Go ahead and remove all of the pop clips that hold on this cover. There should be about 6. Now if you don't have a pop clip removal tool, a flathead screwdriver will work, but this definitely makes life a little easier. Once all the pop clips are removed, grab the cover and remove it off your truck. Next up, we're going to remove the 4 bolts holding in our grille. These should be 10mm bolts, so grab a 10mm socket and a ratchet, and let's get this off. So to remove the grille, you can lift up on these plastic supports here and grab the bottom of the grille and pull straight back to release all of the clips. Alright, so the next step, we need to remove the 3 bolts that are holding on your wheel well liner to your bumper. Using a 7mm socket, let's get these out. Alright, so we've removed the headlight. In order to give you guys a little bit better look at the bolt that we need to get to, you do not need to remove the headlight in order to get your bumper off. Once you're done removing the bolts that hold in your wheel well liner, peel back the wheel well liner and it should expose the head of the bolt that we're trying to get to. Using a 10mm socket, and you may want a smaller ratchet or maybe a swivel here, go ahead and remove this bolt. Repeat that process on the other side. Alright, so we're underneath the truck and we're going to remove the nuts that hold the bumper to the frame, starting with these 2 lower ones. There is one up top here, we're going to get that one in a minute. So using an 18mm socket, and you may want an extension or a swivel, go ahead and remove these. Alright, we're going to repeat that process on the other side, removing the 2 lower nuts and leaving the top one on to support the bumper. Alright, so before we pull the last 2 nuts that hold on our bumper off, we do need to disconnect the fog lights, which we can do by disconnecting this master plug here. So press down on this tab and remove it. Alright, so now we're going to disconnect the last 2 nuts that hold on our bumper. You definitely want to support this because there will be nothing else holding on your bumper once these nuts are off. Alright, now we can take the final nut off the other side. Again, make sure this is supported because there will be nothing else holding on your bumper. Alright, so with those nuts removed, you can now grab your bumper and remove it off the truck. It may take a little wiggling to get it loose, Once you have it off, remove it off the truck. All right, so now that we have the factory bumper uninstalled from our truck, we can check it out side by side with our body armor bumper. And as I stated before, the body armor bumper features steel plate construction with a textured black powder coat finish, which is gonna hold up a whole lot better than the plastic of your factory bumper, and it's gonna look a whole lot nicer as well. It also features accommodations for a winch as well as lighting to set you up for those down the road. All right, so there's a few things we need to do to prep our bumper before we can install it on the truck. So you need to install the sensors, or if you don't have sensors, we're gonna be installing these plugs. Line it up with the 2 posts on the back of the bumper and press it in. All right, at this point we need to remove these plastic pieces off of the truck. There should be 2 10mm bolts holding these on. Repeat that on the other side. All right, so before we can mount up the bumper, we need to install these plates to the frame. Now each of these 3 holes that had the nuts on them, they're gonna be a 12mm bolt, which is a little bit larger, and then the hole to the inside top is gonna be a 10mm bolt, so a little bit smaller. Grab me your larger hardware with a washer and lock washer. Line it up with the frame of your truck and install. Now there is a bit of room for adjustment in this plate, so if you do need to adjust your bumper, you can. And finally, the smallest hardware, the 10mm bolt, goes in the top right there, towards the inside. Repeat that step on the other side. And we are gonna leave these snug but not tight so that we can make sure our bumper is on and sitting in the right spot before we tighten these down. All right, so at this point we can install the bumper. You're definitely gonna want a friend for this step. Lift up the bumper and line it up with the brackets. You're gonna shoot for the inside of the bracket, and then once those are lined up, you can rest it up here, but be very careful. All right, so grab your hardware and line up the holes on the bumper with the holes on the plate you installed, and these are loose, so you can move the bracket around a little bit to line them up better. Make sure you're using a washer and lock washer. And we're gonna install 3 bolts on either side of the bumper. All right, so we left our bumper loose in order to install these corners here. So make sure you're grabbing the one with the proper side. They should be stamped. And if you're not sure, there's a notch that goes towards the back, towards the fender side. So go ahead and line them up. And you may need to move your wheel well liner to the side to come these from underneath. And grab your hex head hardware with a washer and lock washer. And thread them through the holes in the bumper and into the bottom of the corners. With the included Allen key, you can tighten these down. Repeat that process on the other side. All right, double check that your bumper is lined up because as I showed you before, there is a ton of adjustment. And we're gonna start with tightening the 3 bolts that hold your bumper to the plate on your frame. This is gonna be a 16mm socket and a 16mm wrench. So go ahead and grab those and tighten them down. All right, so now we can tighten the top one down. You're gonna need a ratcheting wrench for this one because one of the sensors is in the way. Repeat that on the other side, tightening down the bolts, holding the bumper to the brackets. Now with an 18mm socket and an 18mm wrench, tighten down the bolts, holding the bracket to the frame. Now grab a 16mm socket and a 16mm wrench and tighten down the smaller bolt in the top upper corner. Repeat that process on the other side. All right, so with the bolts tightened down on our bumper, just double check that the fitment is good all around, and now you can install your grille. Line it up with the top of the rad support and reinstall your hardware. Grab your 10mm socket and tighten it down. Replace the rad support cover. Line up the holes and install the pop clips. All right, so one thing I want to know with this bumper is that with it installed, you can see the wheel well liners do hang down quite a bit. Now you're gonna want to either trim these to fit so they sit a little higher and won't blow into your tires, or you can remove these completely. All right, so that is gonna do it for the review and install of this bumper. Remember, for all things Ram, keep it at AmericanTrucks.com.